are you doing tonight? This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, coming to you right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas, and on 987 Radio, Lubbock.com, and 98.7 FM, Lubbock. I don't even know what we're doing. Walk by Faith Radio, that's where we're coming to you on, and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. It's been fast and furious at the Rock today. I'm telling you, we've been at it since 7:30 this morning. Solid busy all day long. It's been fantastic. People have been getting adjusted. Got all kinds of awesome things happening. So we just got it done. Just got on the show. And so we're going to try to bring you another great show tonight. We had a really good one last night, I thought. We messed it up Monday, came back on Tuesday, played pretty well, and got things going. And we're able to bring you stress and burnout. So if you missed that show, you might want to go back and watch it. Got some good comments about it. Got some good text about it. And if you guys deal with stress and burnout, if you're not doing the work that you were designed to be doing, and you're not following the proper the proper guides to the way that things are supposed to work, it's easy to get burned out. So that's a good show last night. Comes from our Take Health to Church show that we do with Hillside Church, and so you might want to go back. If you didn't catch it, go back and catch it last night. And yeah, so tonight is our book review night, and so we've been going through the Master and His Emissary book. And every time we're trying to take it in a little bit different light. We're kind of look at it just a little bit different than we normally do a book review. And so we're still in chapter 2, and chapter 2 might take us a little bit of time. So I'm going to get into just some thoughts about chapter 2, and not so much read from the book like I usually do on our book review night, but just try to bring you some information that you might be able to start to understand at a deeper level. And you guys that listen to the show all the time, I think, we've only been doing this. Matter of fact, this is the end of 5 months that we've been doing the show. We started September 1st, and we've been solid busy with it. We've hit it almost every night. We've had a couple of reruns that we had to do, like last Friday when I had to go get continuing education. And there's been a few days we took off over Christmas and New Year. So, but this is 5 months now that we've been doing this show. And it's 5 months that you've been hearing a lot of the same information about how your brain works, about what's going on in your body. And I just thought I would kind of be a little bit informal tonight with the show instead of really getting the book. I put the book back over there with the books on the shelf, and just thought I've got some highlighted things, and I've got some a little bit of a PowerPoint. I'm not even going to show it. I'm just going to point some of it out to you tonight. But there's a couple of house cleaning things I want to get to before I get too deep into it. And the very first one is I got to give a shout out to my really good friend, MJ Lewis, Dr. Lewis in Roswell, New Mexico at Rock Chiropractic. Love that guy to death. Love his wife, Katie, to death. They're some of my closest friends in chiropractic. They're always there to help me. And we had a little situation. I'm not gonna. It was a beautiful, loving, fun situation. Nothing to worry about. But we had a moment right in the middle this afternoon, and it was. We were both busy. He was busy, and I was busy. And Leslie came to me and said, "Here's the situation, and you need to do that move that MJ does." And I'm like, I don't know what that move is. So I just got on the phone. I came in here in my office. I grabbed my phone and I said, hey, I called his office, and the sweet girl up at the front answered. Thank goodness she was there, and she knew who I was. I said, hey, this is Dr. Clemmons over in Lubbock, and MJ's a good friend of mine. And she was like, I know. She said, hey, Dr. Clemmons. And I said, all right, I know this is going to be a weird request, but here's the situation, and here's the move that I need to know from Dr. Lewis. And would you please ask MJ to tell me what that move is? And so I guess she took him the phone, or he came to the front, and we had about a 30-second conversation, and he broke it down for me and told me what the move was, and then we were able to it's a patient. I'm not even going to get into who it was, but yeah, we got the move done. Everybody was happy. I learned something today. I learned a new technique that I'd never learned before. Never, first time, 100-something thousand adjustments that I've done. This is the very first time that I ever did that technique today. So glad to have it. Another tool in my toolbox that I can use and I can help people with. And so I just really got to give a shout out to Dr. Lewis. Thank you for taking your time. Thank you for the moment that you took in the office. Thanks for being smart and working so hard on people and having techniques that you share. And I really do appreciate that. And I thank you for taking 30 seconds out of your busy afternoon to coach me up on that move. So I think it was successful. I think everybody involved was happy, and we'll just say that was a good deal. That's not something that happens very often. We were very busy in our office this afternoon, and MJ was very busy in his office, I know. And so but it was nice to be able just to get on the phone when you need to. When you got a patient that needs you, you could get on the phone and call your friends, and they will help you out. And I really do appreciate him for that. So that's one of the housekeeping things that I wanted to bring up. The other housekeeping thing that I wanted to bring up is I wanted to talk just a minute about. So I had there's two other issues that I wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring up the. I have lots of respect. Let me say it this way: I have lots of respect for other professions, and there's lots of smart people out there in the world that take care of people, and we get along with all of them best we can. We try to, as best we can, get along with every professional out there that is taking care of people. But sometimes you just disagree with them, right? And sometimes they overstep their boundaries. Sometimes I probably overstep my boundaries too. I'll admit that. There's times that I've failed when it comes to taking care of certain cases that got sent to me from other doctors and all that sort of thing. And whenever that happens, you feel super bad about it. It's not something that you're proud of. You're not really happy with it. But today I had a patient that came to me that had some issues in their neck and shoulders, been dealing with it for over a year, and came through. We did the evaluation. We got ready to do the adjustments, and she said, the only thing that I've been to a neurosurgeon, and the only thing is that the neurosurgeon advises that I do not get a neck adjustment. And I was like, okay, like, all right. And so we didn't adjust her neck. But let me just say this, that and I'll try to say it as politely as I possibly can, but that's a little bit overstepping the boundaries from the neurosurgeon's standpoint. The neurosurgeon needs to they have a job to determine whether or not that patient needs surgery or they don't need surgery. That's their game. And if a neurosurgeon says that they need surgery, then then they should schedule them for surgery, or that's their recommendation. But to tell the patient that they should not get a chiropractic adjustment is outside of it's not outside of their scope, because they got plenty of scope to do whatever they want to, but it's outside of their knowledge base. They don't have any idea what I do for a living. They don't have any idea my knowledge base, my understanding, what I know about the cervical spine, what I know about functional neurology, what I know about how the brain works and how the spine works. They don't know anything about me at all. And it hurts my heart when you've got a patient that actually gets bound up and they have to live with the consequences of that decision right there. And we've done over 100,000 adjustments. Like I just said, I don't know how many adjustments I've done actually, but I know I'm fixing to start my 20th year of seeing patients. And to determine whether or not a person needs a cervical adjustment, a neck adjustment, is something that we do right here in the office, and I don't really need any advice from a neurosurgeon of any kind. I've seen them. We've gotten plates and screws and degeneration and all kinds of things that we deal with in our office, and so if that happens to you, because it's very common, if you go to 5 different doctors in 5 different disciplines, you're going to get a lot of times you're going to get 5 different opinions, and it's very confusing it's very confusing to you as a consumer what you should do. Like what exactly is, like, how who are you supposed to follow? Whose advice are you supposed to follow when one doctor's saying one thing and one doctor's saying another thing and one doctor's saying another thing, right? It's like, I don't know which one I'm supposed to follow. And so I understand how confusing it can be to you, but I really hate it for you when that happens. We'll do an evaluation. If a doctor has a recommendation, we'll take it under consideration. But and if that doctor was here, I'd love to take it. And you know what would happen if I'd adjust that person's neck? She would have got up off the table and been better for it. Like, that's what would have happened if she would have got adjusted. And that is the truth. And that's not being cocky and arrogant, and that's not thinking that I'm the only one that knows what's going on. None of that stuff. She's doing dry needling, and the neurosurgeon's recommendation was Botox injections in the trap. Like, do not get a chiropractic adjustment, but I really think you should get Botox injections in the trap. Do you realize what Botox injections are? Botulism toxin. That's what that is. You know what it does to your nervous system? It kills the nerve. It temporarily paralyzes the nerve. It's a toxin. It's in the name, Botox, right? So we can't get a chiropractic adjustment that might free that joint up, that might fire the neurology properly, that might reset the whole biomechanics of the cervical spine, but we can inject the neck with Botox. So, boy, I'm telling you, that's ridiculous. And if you guys get in that situation, you need to find that doctor that you trust. And if you have questions as a consumer, then drill those questions. Ask your doctor. Make your doctor answer those questions. Make your doctor, feel good about the situation that you go to with your doctor. But it just binds you up. And I really in that situation right there, you can tell when a person should or should not get adjusted. There's markers that are going on. We did an exam. Ran the right eye test. I did a pupillary light reflex. We did a history. We talked to her about what was going on. We did our due diligence like we're supposed to do, and there was no reason that girl shouldn't have got an adjustment today. But instead we had to work around it. So, and we did. We worked around it. Everything was fine. I think she was happy when she left. I was happy with her. She's welcome. I hope she comes back next week and we can keep her on track. But just a little pushback right there. Just a little pushback when, especially neurosurgeons, those guys are so dadgum smart, and they're usually magna cum laude this and that, and sometimes they are way over left hemisphered, and they don't see the big picture of what goes on with the patient. So that was the other one. The last one I wanted to kind of clean up was, hey, look, every single day we got to make a decision on whether or not we want to be healthy. Every single day we've got to be either working towards being healthy or working towards being sick. And it's not fun when you lose your health. It's not a fun thing. So I had a conversation like that today. And some of those conversations are quite serious on my part. And when they get serious, the patient's like, whew, yeah, you're right. It's all fun and games. And, what they say, it's all fun and games until you get an eye poked out. Yeah, it's all fun and games until you lose your health. And then it is not fun, and it is not a game. It's not fun, and it's not a game, right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to drive towards health every day. And you got a lot of people out there that's talking about health, but man, when you come into my office and you are not serious about your health, you are wasting my time. Like you should go to the joint or you should go to some other place and just go get adjusted. They do a great job just giving you an adjustment. That is not that it rubs on me a little bit, and it's like, and sometimes you got to do it out of love, right? I felt the situation. I understood what was going on, and I was quite serious with the patient about what was happening, and the patient responded too. They needed someone to be quite serious with them, and um, so, but I would not dedicate the my life's energy to someone that just blatantly was like not interested at all. We just have to get that right up front. It's like, look, you'd probably be better off somewhere else, right? If you want to be healthier, we got stuff for you, and we'll come at you from every realm we can come at you to help you be healthier. But you got to come with us, right? You got to work with us. So um, that's all I wanted to clean up before we got into the meat and potatoes of the show and kind of got into this whole idea of the right and left brain. So let's get into the book, The Master and His Emissary, but let's do it a little different tonight. First of all, if you have a comment or question and you're on listening to us on the radio and you want to send us a text, it's 806-794-0400. 806-794-0400. And I'll put that on the social media if you guys want to send us a text on that. And you're welcome to send it to, if you catch this show later on, if you come back and watch social media later and you catch this after we're not live anymore, then and you still want to send me a text, go right ahead. Send it to our text line. I'll get you answered, see if we can help you from that standpoint. If you're watching us on social media, if you're on Facebook or YouTube or X, then and you got a comment for us and you want to send it to us, go ahead. We'll send it to us and we'll get it to you and we'll get your questions answered. So I just want to make sure that tonight, if you do have that, anybody wants to talk about it, then feel free to go ahead and reach out to me and see what's going on right there. So let me see if I can get to I lost my stuff here. Just a second. There we go. So remember when we were talking about the different hemispheres of the brain, and we said the purpose of the brain is to put us in touch with whatever is outside of ourselves. Now there's a lot more purposes to the brain, right? The brain's running our entire body, but what we do is we're trying to survive inside the right side and left side of the brain, and we're trying to that's not right. The right side and left side of the brain have different jobs in helping us survive in our environment. That's really what I wanted to go right there. And I wanted to get back into the 5 levels of attention because I think it's really important for us to understand that about where our attention is. There it is. I lost my stuff there. But how your right hemisphere brings your world into being is super important. Because you're going to get the vigilance, the sustained attention, the alertness, and the divided attention is going to happen in the right hemisphere of our brain. And I want to keep going with it, and I want to keep talking about that because I do think it's important to understand that from a health standpoint of all of the things that it does, how it affects your daily routine, like how it affects your knee pain, how it affects your hip pain, how it affects your digestion, how it affects your blood pressure, how it affects all of the things that we deal, any of those symptoms that we deal with on a daily basis. Those are the things that map themselves back into the way that your brain fires, right? So vigilance, a state or quality of being vigilant, watchfulness, right? That's and then you go to vigilant and keenly watchful to detect danger, ever awake and alert, sleeplessness, watchful. So keenly watchful to detect danger. That's what's going on in that right hemisphere. That's the first thing that's going to happen over there is it's going to be vigilant. It's going to be on the lookout for anything that might be threatening to us. There's no question about that. That right hemisphere is going to bring our world into us. That's where we're going to get. That's where we're going to get. The peripheral world is going to be brought to us. The new must be first presented to the right hemisphere before it can come into focus on the left. So that left brain is where we say we have that focused attention, right? The focused attention is over here. The vigilance, the alertness, the sustained attention, the divided attention is on our right hemisphere. So we're bringing the world into play through attention. And that's what our left brain focuses on, is what is brought into our nervous system through our right hemisphere. And that I want to see if I can verbalize that in a way that makes any sense. How you see the world. The world is basically just neutral. The world is just out there. It's how you bring it into your nervous system, and then how your right brain defines it and how your left brain focuses on it, that actually creates the world that you have for yourself. Right? Like what I see in this room is what I bring into my attention. So right now I'm sitting at a desk and I'm staring at an iPad. So all I see right now, I don't even see you. I'm talking to you, but I don't see you. Right? I've got a microphone that's on my shirt right here, and I'm talking to people on the radio that I can't see. I'm just sitting by myself in my office right now. And I'm looking at a black iPad. I don't even see the picture. I don't even see myself. I have to look over here at the screen, which you can't see on TV. You can't see on social media. But my computer is right there. And I have to look at the screen in order to see myself. But all that is coming into my being from my right hemisphere, and it's what I make now of the world. So I made my scene in here. I made it. I made the scene that I'm going to react to based on the attention that I gave it. That's where my world is built. My world is built through the attention that I give to the part of world that I build. I know that's not smooth. I know it's not smooth, but I hope it has meaning. I hope it actually means something when I'm saying that, right? Like right now, I can't see the door. There's a door out here to the hallway, and I can't see the door. What I can see is just right here. Now, I've got a football. I just glanced over. I got a football when I was coaching. I don't even know what date, something 1998. When we played Baylor, I was a defensive line coach, and my coaches, my players, my guys gave me a game ball at the end of the game. And we beat Baylor 31 to 29, whatever, in 1998. Texas Tech beat Baylor 31 to 29 in 1998, and I got a game ball for that for some reason. I don't know why, but I got it, and I still have it right over there sitting on behind my desk. And it's sitting right next to the goalpost that we tore down. I talked about that, I think, last Wednesday, right, when we beat A&M 21 to 19. So I'm looking at the TV. I'm looking at the iPad, and at the same time, all of a sudden, I catch that football out of the corner of my eye, out of my peripheral right hemisphere vision. All of a sudden, I catch that football over there. So what is it going to do to my thoughts, right? Well, it'd be really easy for me to just, all right, all of a sudden I see it, and now my left hemisphere grasp it. My left hemisphere focuses my attention on that ball, and all of a sudden, my whole world changes based on how I focus that attention. Now I'm going to start talking about the game that we beat Baylor and the 3 defensive tackles that we played with. And one of those defensive tackles just happens to be the defensive line coach for the San Francisco 49ers. His name is Chris Kasurek, and he's playing in the Super Bowl. And so you see how that works? Like, like I can change my focus. I can catch something out of my right side. I can change my focus on it. And then all of a sudden I can start to act on that one thing. I can start to bring back memories of that time in my life when I was going through that. And I can start to reminisce about the people that were in my life. And I can start to remember the times that we had. And some of those times might be fabulous. And some of those times might be less than fabulous or miserable. Or it might trip me a couple more thoughts, and I might be right into thinking about a person that I really didn't like during that time of my life, and how I didn't get along with them at all, and I couldn't stand being around that person. And then all of a sudden, what happens? My heart rate goes up, and my sympathetic response kicks in, and then my blood pressure goes up. And all those things can happen to me in just a blink of an eye, just based on the environment by which I bring into my life. That the world that I build on the things that I pay attention to. Maybe that made a little bit of sense. I hope it did. We're fixing to come up on a break. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back and see if we can make a little bit more sense of it right after this break. So this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we'll be right back. Yeah, sometimes I try to verbalize that, because you're like, if you're listening to that, you might be thinking, what is he talking about? Like, what does it even mean? And how come he talks about that? He talked about this same thing last week, and it's like, what does he keep talking about that for? Well, the reason I keep talking about that is when we go back to what actually happens in our brain, right? When we go back, when we start to understand this whole map that we talk about all the time, right? Up and to the right, over to the left, right? Right side, left side, right side, adrenaline, left side, dopamine, right? Right side, stress response, left side, calm, rest and recover. Then it starts to matter. Then it starts to matter because once you do that, if you start to get into that point, what you'll start to say to yourself is, okay, how do I get that to happen? How do I get that up and to the right, over to the left to happen? How do I get myself into a state of health? Okay, I finally get it. He just keeps talking about it and keeps talking about it and keeps talking about it. And then finally it's like, okay, then what things might contribute to the way that functions? Well, let me show you something that might contribute to the way that functions. Yeah, look at we'll go back again. We'll just talk about fish oil again. These are from my notes that I got from Dan Murphy this weekend when I was listening to Dan. This is one of the things, right? So we're talking about eicosanoids and cytokines and prostaglandins E2, and derived from the hormone-like molecules derived from omega-6 fatty acids, arachidonic acid. And then when you eat corn and soy, and you get delta-5 desaturase when you have the presence of insulin. I'll give you a great example. We were sitting in the office today. Let me get back. Let's see if yeah, let me get back from the break right quick, and I'll tell you a great example of that, because we were just sitting minding our own business, and a local restaurant came over and brought us some food. Hang on, we'll be right back. Hey everybody, we're back. This is Jason Clemmons. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, And you're listening to us on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio. So let's get to it. What I was saying is, what I was talking about when we were talking about how we pay attention to things, then the things that we pay attention to is the things that we're going to act on. And so when we start to act on those things, it creates our health. So we want to pay attention to the things, and we want to focus on the things that give us the best opportunity to be healthy. And we want to make sure that when we're doing that, that we're bringing into our world healthy things. And so I was about to tell him while we were on the break, I was about to tell him what happened in the office today. A local barbecue place that just moved in across the street from us was going around to the businesses, and they had these pans full of sliders, they call them, right? And which is a biscuit with some sort of meat in the middle of it. I think it was meat and Swiss cheese or something in the middle of it. And so they brought them over, and I love the barbecue. It's great. The barbecue stuff is great. The meat part is good, all that sort of thing. But they brought them over. They're being friendly, super great people, love them to death, hope their business does great, will support them. I'll eat barbecue. I love barbecue. We're going to eat them. We're going to eat it. So there's nothing that I hope they do fantastic, right? But they brought those sliders over, and they put them in front of me, and I just happened to be back there eating lunch, and Kim brought them to the back, and she's like, here, this was a gift. They just brought us over some sliders. And I was like, awesome. I don't even know what a slider is, to tell you the truth. I couldn't remember. And so we took the lid off of it, and I was like, oh, yeah, like little biscuit sandwiches is what they were. And so what did I do? What did I do with that whole pan full of biscuit sandwiches? Did I just dive into them and eat 6 of them? There's my whole life I could have done that. Could have just dove right into them and eat all 6 of them. That's what I could have done. But no, what did I do? Because I've worked on these pathways in my brain, and because I have balanced a little bit of that adrenaline and dopamine, and because I have understood the mechanisms of how that stuff works, and because I have tried to work on bringing my attention to things that are healthy, I want to create a world for myself for things that are healthy. I just took the biscuit off the top of it and just grabbed the turkey from the middle of the biscuit, and I just ate 2 or 3 sliders worth of meat and left the biscuits in the pan. Right? Why would I do that? Why would I do that? What's wrong with the biscuit? Well, the biscuit is refined carbohydrates, right? And when I get the biscuit, it's going to create. We've got this pathway right here, right? So whenever I eat any sort of omega-6 fatty acid, and if there's that cow that brisket and that turkey that I ate, I know dang well that wasn't a grass-fed animal. That animal has been eating corn, right? So I'm going to eat that corn brisket, and then I'm going to get delta 5 desaturase whenever I have insulin at the same point. So the biochemistry of this pathway right here is going to go if I have insulin. So if I eat the biscuit at the same time as I eat the meat, and the meat has any omega-6s in it, what I'm going to end up with is arachidonic acid. It's going to go to that level, and I'm going to end up with arachidonic acid. And then arachidonic acid is going to be used the COX enzymes, and the COX enzymes are going to kick me down to prostaglandin E2, and then I'm going to be inflamed. And that's going to cause my body to break down, right? That's not what I want. That's not the world that I want to create for myself. I've been in that world for my whole life. I don't want to be in that world anymore. I don't want to make those decisions. I love the barbecue place. I'm not talking trash about the barbecue place. I'm going to get me some barbecue. I love that. But I'm going to eat the meat. I'm going to eat the meat, and I'm not going to eat the biscuit that goes along with it. I had a patient tell me today that his granddaddy had a certain blood marker, a test. I'm not going to get into what test it was, but you know all those things like cholesterol and all the rest of that stuff that you test your blood. He's like, we had a conversation last week, and I've been really thinking about that. And my granddaddy had this same problem, and my daddy had this same problem. And what do you think? Don't you think that there really just could be a genetic component that our body just doesn't produce this type of chemical the same as everybody else? I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't buy that. I said, maybe 2 or 3%, right? Remember our guys from Oxford when we did our Eating for Health class, and they talk about Sir something or another presented to the Congress and whatever, that it's like 2 to 3% of all chronic disease is some sort of genetic component, right? So it means 97 to 98% of chronic disease is environmental. It's epigenetics. It's biochemistry, right? That's so. If I have that, any of that corn, if I have that corn-fed animal, if I have that that the arachidonic acid is what I'm going to get when I use insulin with it. And so the same guy said, well, if Daddy grew up on steak and eggs that caused all that problem, and Granddaddy grew up on steak and eggs. I'm like, dude, it wasn't the steak and eggs that was the problem. The steak and eggs would have kept a man strong and healthy. It was the biscuits and gravy that was with the steak and egg that caused the whole problem. Because now you got a big bucket of problem right there that goes along with it. That's where we get in trouble. It's not the steak and the eggs. The eggs are fabulous for you. Like free-range chicken eggs are just, man, that's almost the perfect food. That's not your problem whatsoever. That's not going to cause you ill health. Eating that grass-fed steak is not going to cause you ill health. That stuff is what human beings are supposed to eat. And fish, right? Those are the things that they're supposed to eat. It's when we add the refined carbohydrates to it, when we add the white potato, when we add the gravy, when we add the biscuit, when we add those things to it, now what we end up with is that arachidonic acid, and then those COX enzymes take us to PGE2, and then we've got this high omega-6-3 ratio, right? These are not my notes. These are notes that Dr. Murphy presented this weekend. And these are the same. Dr. Murphy is the one that taught me this information in 2009. He's the one that broke down this stuff for me in 2009. And so, and it's like, wow, you mean there's actually biochemistry that says I'm going to end up being inflamed if I keep eating these things? Yes, I'm telling you, there's biochemistry that puts us in that. It puts us in that situation where we get inflammation, right? So how do we get ourselves to the point where we're not interested in the biscuit? That's the point. That's why I keep going back to the brain. I keep going back to the brain because that's the reason that I think it's important to understand where we pay attention to things. How our attention level, where is our attention? What am I focused on? What am I trying to bring into my environment? Like what difference does it actually make? Does it make any difference at all? Right? Like, can I? I think it does. I'll just say that. I think it actually does make a difference because we're trying to pay attention to healthy things. And how do we do that? We get our brain to function properly. We get our brain to fire in the pattern that it's supposed to fire in, so that it's way easier for us to make these healthy choices. And we get some pathways made inside our brain. And by educating ourselves, if we will educate ourselves to the point where we start to understand this, then we can start breaking down the things that we can do, right? And that when I had that really tough conversation with that patient today, by the time we were finished, she didn't throw her stuff at me and leave and get mad at me. She wanted to see the rest of the office. She wanted to go back and see the altar G. And I took her back there and I showed it to her. And I said, hey, look, we can help you walk. Because I think walking is super important. Being social is super important. Now, you have to have attention if you're going to be social, because a lot of us are social with our grandkids or with our kids or with our friends in environments that are not healthy. One of the things that was brought to my attention about being social is at the ballpark. Where'd you eat supper last night? I ate it at the ballpark. What are you going to eat at a ballpark that's going to give you any health? Nothing, right? I mean, if it does, that's going to be the most awesome ballpark that I've ever seen. You might get something if you go to a Texas Rangers game. You might find something that will give you something to eat. But I'm talking about a little league. This was a grandchild at a little league ballpark, right? What are we possibly going to eat at a ballpark that's going to give us any? No, nothing. That the concession stand is going to give us things that's going to move us away. So we got to be careful, right? We got to be careful. We want to be social. We want to make sure that we do social things because we want to make sure that we drive that right hemisphere of our brain properly. That is super important in being social. There's a lot of depth neurology that goes along for health when we want to be social. But the other part is we want to pay attention to the negative things about being social, right? If all my friends want to do is go to the bar and drink, and that's the only time that I have a chance to be social, then I'm going to be moving myself away from health and wellness, right? It's like being social and drinking is not going to get you to where you want to go from a health and wellness standpoint. Now, I don't think you should be a hermit, but you can go to a bar and drink a glass of tea. I've done it my whole life. I've done it lots and lots of times, right? We can do that. We can go there. We can walk. And that's what this lady was like, look, you're already social. You just got to protect your social environment by the way that the nutrients that you bring into your body. And then we can help you walk. And then we can help you get your eyes up, and we can give you exercises to where now you can start to move your body through a range of motion, and you can watch yourself, and you can get your eyes to move through that range of motion. And then we can give you some things, and now we got a chance. Now we got a chance to start gaining some momentum to moving you forward, right? And that's knowing what's going on in your brain, to me, is crucial to having a lifelong winning, like to really win the game, to play the game to win. It really does help, right? So the right hemisphere is more capable of a frame shift. Right frontal lobe, especially important for flexibility of thought. Like there's some of you that are listening to this and then you just turn it off, right? Probably because it's horrible. I understand. Probably because it doesn't match up. But I did get some new fiber today, so hopefully we can solve that problem and get all the sound in my face to match up. But flexibility of thought is a right hemisphere thing. Injury to the right brain results in a pathological inability to respond to flexibly changing situations. Flexibly changing situations. So if we were to injure the right brain, we could gain the inability to respond to flexible changing situations, which is things that we need to do on a daily basis. We need to be able to do that. And so if our right brain is not firing properly, then what will happen is we might get over focused on something with our left brain, and then we don't have any flexibility of thoughts. We can problem solve with our right hemisphere. We have a really hard time doing that with our left hemisphere. We get locked into old solutions with our left hemisphere. So the right hemisphere, creativity makes associations with widely different ideas and concepts. That was one thing that I wanted to go over tonight. Was people say to me all the time, isn't the right brain, isn't that the creative side, and the left brain is the analytical side? And and Dr. McGilchrist does a really good job of kind of explaining why that's the case. And it's not that the right brain is not analytical. It's not that the left brain's not creative to some extent. It's just that the right brain makes associations with widely different ideas and concepts. It looks at all of the components of the room when it's trying to be creative. And if you want to be creative, you have to have a good understanding of relationships of things. A person that's an artist and you draw a face, it's really easy. Like if I draw a face, I'm not good at it at all, right? Like to actually try to figure out how to draw a face, like is, and you guys have done the same thing. Like I know that you're I got so many tabs open tonight, I can't even get it all straight. But um, when you try to draw a face on someone, like, and you don't have any relationship to anything else that's going on, like it's really hard to do, right? So if I'm gonna try to draw something, and I don't even know where to start really. So it's like kind of make a jawline and then try to have an eye, and then see what, like, how does that come down into a nose, and then if you were to bring that back up and then make another eyebrow or something, and then how would you kind of make a shadow on the nose? You see what I mean? Like that right there that is a part of my brain that doesn't work very good. Like me trying to draw a face, like the it takes relationship, right? So that's horrible. Like that's not something that's not I'm not gonna win any prizes with that. But how does your eye relate to your nose? How does your eye relate to your eyebrow? What is the angle of something, that and the way that it folds and feels, and how do you actually how do, what is the relationship of things? Well, that's a right hemisphere thing. And the better your right hemisphere works, the better you can draw. So I guess that's bad news for me right there, because obviously, if you guys are listening to that on the radio, you're blessed, because you didn't get to see that drawing that I just came up with right there. But that is a definite challenge for a person that doesn't have relationship. So relationships with words, understanding of words. My brother's a songwriter in Nashville, Tennessee. My wife is a wordsmith. Like they have such good understandings of the way that things fit together in words. Leslie she wins all the Scrabble and Words with Friends and all that sort of thing, because she has such an awesome understanding of relationship with the way that those words work. And she has such a deep knowledge of that. So our left brain kind of gets focused in on one thing, and it just sees one way of saying it. It just sees one way of seeing it, and now it has a hard time being creative because it doesn't have anything to compare it to. It's kind of like the face I was trying to draw, right? I don't my brain doesn't fire very well in that pathway. I can't really make a good, like I'm not a good artist like that. But when I come to, sometimes when I'm using analogies or when I'm speaking, that it actually fits together better. And now you can kind of have a better feel of it. It's like, oh, I see what he's saying right there, because of the depth of understanding I have on the subject and my life experiences that I've had. I can kind of relate to people and understand, like giving them parables and that type of thing to get them to understand things that they're like, oh, that was a really good way of saying that. Yeah. So that's a good, that's part of what goes on with right side and left side brain. The more capable, let's say problem solving, got that one done. Let's go to this next slide I was going through. The right brain has superior integration, more diffuse but overlapping somatosensory projections and auditory inputs. That's a big point right there, because it's there's more diffuse overlapping somatosensory projections. Somatosensory is the feeling that's coming into the nervous system. And the right parietal lobe is where your somatosensory is, your sensory cortex. Okay, your right frontal lobe is your motor cortex, from right and left, but parietal lobe is your sensory cortex. So you have more overlapping somatosensory projections and auditory inputs into the right hemisphere. It's not saying that you don't have any into the left hemisphere, but there's more of them over into the right hemisphere. New experiences lead to the release of noradrenaline, which we talked about, right? And how that's the stress response. Those new experiences lead us to that. It gets us a heightened state of alertness. We're paying more attention when something's new because we got to make sure that we're not going to get eaten by an alligator or a tiger. We want to pay attention to that new environment, right? And so that pathway is going to be fired over there on that side. And that's and one of the things is that those neurons don't fatigue. So you can be at stated heights of alertness for long periods of time. You can be at heights of alertness. You can be very alert for long periods of time because it's not going to fatigue. That's part of the things. If you get stressed out, it's hard to sleep, right? It's you're wide awake. You might, if you're stressed out about something and you don't take care of it and you go to sleep, you might wake up 2:00 in the morning. You'll be wide awake because those neurons are not fatiguing, and your right brain still hasn't determined that there's no threat in that environment, and you're still firing that noradrenaline over there on that right side, and you're going to keep yourself in that heightened sense, right? You're also going to keep yourself, because you're very quick-tempered now. You're very quick-tempered. You're very quick to jump. You're quick to react because we've got that overload going on with that noradrenaline over there. That's the adrenaline in the brain that fires into that right hemisphere that gets us overreactive, right? The left brain is more interconnected within itself. So the neurons run more inside the left brain than they do crossing the brain into other regions of the brain. It's more interconnected with itself. It deals with what it already knows, the world it has made for itself. That's the sentence I was looking for a while ago. The world it has made for itself. That's what the left hemisphere does. It takes limited short-term view. I'm just focused on one thing. And it's if you're focused on one thing, if I'm sitting here and I'm reading this label and this fish oil, and I'm really focusing on that right there, and someone comes up to me and says something to me, how many times has this happened to you? You're just like, what? Right? You're quick-tempered. I've seen so many young people beat their children to death. Like, it goes through a phase where you see it on the news over and over and over again, right? You see young 22-year-olds, 23-year-olds that are brand new parents that all of a sudden they just go ballistic on their child. Why? Because they've got their phone and they've got their head stuck in their phone, and that's left hemisphere activation, dopamine driven, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all those things, right? Those are dopamine driven activities, which is that left hemisphere. And now I'm so focused on that right there that I'm not really firing that right hemisphere, and that's where my anger comes from. My anger is I don't remember when we talked about it last week, where we don't have the ability to inhibit our environment or our initial reaction. That's what happens to us when our right brain is not functioning, because our right brain inhibits that initial reaction. So if we're stuck in our phone and our kid needs our attention, which kids need attention, then we get ourselves in trouble because we just come out of it with anger, and we get so frustrated. It's the way that we're focusing our attention. So is that a healthy thing? I don't think it's dang sure not healthy for those little kids who are getting beaten, right? It's not healthy for the parents. It's not healthy for the relationship between the parents. We might want to just make sure that we're firing those patterns properly and trying to take as good a health care as we can for our brain. So I know it was a little bit different approach to the way that we were going through the book review night, but I just think if we keep firing it and keep talking about it, that we'll get a really good grasp of it, and it might help you be healthier in your life, and that's really what my goal is. So I appreciate you guys listening to the show. Um, I hope you guys will come back tomorrow night at 6. If you got questions, if you got comments, or something I can help you with, please send them to me. And otherwise, we're going to see you guys tomorrow night at 6. So have a great night.